Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tineke Van Hooland. I'm a pharmacist by training, and today I am the co-lead of Bio.be Essentia, which is the Belgian biotech association. So we're working a lot on competitiveness, health policy, but also talent in our country and the regions. I'm also chairing the NEC, which is the National Associations Council at Europa Bio, which is the European Biotech Association, and related to that, I'm also part of the Joint Cooperation Industry Forum at HERA, which is the new organ, let's say, in Europe post-COVID. So happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Tineke.
Bon après-midi.
Bon après-midi.
Antionio Di Giulio. I'm a food scientist by training. Food economics. I've been working now for a long time with the Commission, mainly in research fields of food science, health, and I'm now with DG Sante, dealing with the EU for health and health research.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. This is Gonzalo Arévalo. I work for the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation within the National Strategic Plan that was introduced yesterday by the Commissioner, Dr. Ayodi, that it's already in the audience. This is a sort of National Strategic Plan that pull that aims to have together the national administration, all the different and relevant policies, the regional actors also, and the private sector, professionals, in order to have a strategic framework, in order to develop and to have continue having a better national health system. Thank you.
Hi, this is Lorena Boix Alonso. I'm currently director in the European Commission in DG Connect. So for those that don't know, it's the DG that deals with everything which is digital. And in my directorate, I am dealing with e-health, so the application of technologies to health matters, but not only, also with cybersecurity and digital identification, which is also very important for data protection. And maybe I have a little announcement, because just a few hours ago, I was appointed Deputy Director General for DG Sante. So
Congratulations. Congratulations.
I'm still in my capacity of little director of DG Connect, so I'm not yet in the job, but this was just a few hours ago, so I'm very happy also to say that.
So there's a party later.
Oh yes, for sure, this evening, yes.
Jenni, you're next. Can you grab that microphone?
Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations. My name is Jenni Nordborg. I am now Director for International Affairs at the Swedish Pharma Association. The pharma industry is very big in Sweden, and my background is I'm an engineer. My PhD is in laser physics, but I've dedicated sort of my whole work within life sciences. And I've also been working for the government in the Innovation Agency for many, many years, and I've been for the last 5 years at the government offices where I set up the Swedish Office for Life Sciences and the Swedish Life Sciences Strategy. So also in this panel, I will try to reflect both on sort of the pharma, the legislation, the Sante, very interesting here, and then on the research side, a lot also from looking back from the Swedish presidency, also where we are now when it comes to personalized medicine and deep tech in the super convergence. So a great conference that you've had. It's a privilege to be able to reflect a little.
Thank you very much. Privilege having you. Irene, please.
Yeah, thank you. So Irene Norstedt, and I am the director for a directorate called People, where we deal with both health research and also research on SSH and a number of other areas, a very broad portfolio. I also have a very long history in the European Commission, working on various aspects of health, industry aspects, etc. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank and congratulate the Belgian presidency for an absolutely fantastic conference. It is really astonishing and fantastic to see. From the Commission side, we organized the first personalized medicine conference in 2011. We had another one in 2016, and it is really fantastic to see how things have moved on since 2011 in particular, when there was still a lot of, what is this, and not sure what we can do. And to see more and more the acceptance in the whole sort of health systems of this approach, and also to start to see the rollout at regional and national levels. So we're really a privilege. So again, congratulations, Belgium, for pulling together a very, really, really excellent program.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of you for being here. So I came up with this crazy idea. You were warned. Now it's my job to warn you. The idea is, wait, let me start from the beginning. So a few days ago, I went to have my car fixed at the local garage, and I noticed that the people who worked at the garage were talking about Russian history as if they were historians. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I started eavesdropping, and apparently they had watched something on Netflix that referred to the history of Russia. And I thought, So, my invitation to you is, I would like you to imagine that all of us are putting together a Netflix documentary about the future of medicine so that everyone in the world understands exactly what's coming to them. How do you feel about that? I know. Wait, let's give it a try. So, first things first. So the first thing we would ask ourselves in this documentary is, what is health? What does it mean to be healthy? I'm assuming a documentary about the future of medicine starts with, what is health? Does anyone feel a calling to answer that question? Because health can be a myriad of things. I mean, is it preserving health? Is it about wellness? Is it about performance? Is it about death? Is it about how we deal with life? What is health? Anyone. So we have the begin tune of our documentary, da-da-da, and then a voiceover, and then someone saying, to me, health is...
Sorry, it's just to break a little bit the ice, because I introduced myself saying that I come from the food world. So to such a question, I would answer that food is the remedy, or at least the good food, because there is a very strong interlink between eating well, nutrition, and health. So I'm launching this as not a boutade, but as a way to think about it also, that many of our diseases, I know that experts say that more than 70% can be avoided if we eat well. So if we think about our health, let's also think about our food.
That's fantastic. I'm currently working on a project. I work for a chair in innovation, and we're working on innovation in artificial intelligence and food. And the intersection between food and well-being and healthcare and medicine is very prominent. So thank you very much for that. Yes.
So, first of all, to tell the audience that we were not warned about this, just 5 minutes.
No, my fault.
This is surprise, this is improvisation, but you said, what is health? Is it about death? I think health is about life. And it's not simply about surviving, it's not simply about living as long as we can, but about having a quality of life. Health is really being able to enjoy your life. And this is why I think it's so important that healthcare is not only about maintaining life, but about ensuring it is of good quality. And this is why, and I'm sure this was discussed during the day, prevention is so important. Because that's probably prevention and having a good quality of life so that you can then live your future in a healthy way is so important, and why, and I'm going to sell my thing, why technology is so important. Because technology, and we were discussing today how digitalization can really help in having a preventive approach and then personalized medicine and treatment. So that's what health is for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whose understanding of health has changed because of technology? Mine definitely has. I'm sure, Roma, yours has too, maybe? Do you, I'm putting you on the spot again, no? Anyone?
Yes, well, if I can build up on what Lorena says, I would say that what certainly health is, it's a multivariable thing that needs a multivariable approach. And that's why so timely the issues that were discussed yesterday and today, and the big challenge that we have for the future. Also, I think that health, what is health depends to who you ask and where you ask this question, because I think that also there is a big component on what we understand on what health is dependent on our living conditions. And this is something we should have to think also.
Absolutely, interesting. Would you like? Yes.
Thank you, and I think that one of the reasons why not many of us people raised our hands in your question to does technology change our view of health is that it has nothing to do with technologies to me, and I think that what's ranked in all surveys, health is the #1 priority in people's life very often, and I think that one of what's health for me is also what you were alluding to, autonomy. So being able to do what I want and be the best of me, and in a lot of people, and I think that to sort of trying to bring it to this conference then is personalized medicine. I think that is something when we get the need for treatments, etc., we sort of count on that they are fit for me, personalized. But the more we learn over this 12 years of having put the personalized medicine on the sort of policy agenda, is that the more we learn, the less we know. I really like the analogy of the iceberg earlier today. It's because we gain so much knowledge and it's super important, but the less we really know about biology and what really works. But what we do know is that this is sort of an era of policy when policy needs to work in a good way, and I think that that's sort of the power of partnerships that I've been showing over these 2 days is also an extremely good take-home message.
So thank you. So my take on this is that health is something I don't think we really think about as long as we are healthy. It's when you come into ill health, that is when you start to think about it and realize how important health is. And it's when you come to that point and you feel that something isn't right, this is when technology comes in. Because that is when you enter up into screening programs, to diagnostics programs, and you are dependent on a whole array of technology, digitization, to identify what is it you're suffering from and what would be the best possible therapeutic pathway for getting better and hopefully cured. And I think for me, that is the link between health and technology. So it's not the health, it's the ill health. That is where the technology starts. Of course, we can start to talk about preventing and the prediction of diseases, etc. But as individuals, I think health is something that we just take for granted until we come to the point of ill health.
Absolutely. Tineke, I think you want to add something to that.
Yes, and to further build on that as well. First of all, for me, health is the greatest gift that we have, and we should really cherish it. And I do agree that today, when we look at the healthcare, at least in our country, but I think in Europe as well, is more a sick care. But the healthcare for me should be about the care of the health. So what does that mean? Indeed, prevention. We do invest too little in prevention. If I look at Belgium, it's 2 to 3 times less than our neighboring countries. So we should basically put more emphasis on that. And sometimes healthcare is too much seen as a cost, whether it should be an investment. Because if we're healthy, we can go to work, we're happy, so it's good for mental health as well. We can do stuff with our friends and everything. So we should think about health in all policies to make sure that indeed we can invest in it, and therefore indeed we need new technologies like data, like personalized medicine, other innovative technologies, etc. So to come to your Netflix, I think we need to start with a patient story of someone who is really ill and who cannot be cured anymore, and basically to give a kind of a shock therapy on what it is, what people feel when they cannot be cured anymore. So basically to say what we need to do is really to make sure that we can invest in the health of people and that they can stay as long as possible in a healthy way.
So the reason I came up with this idea of Netflix is because, to my understanding, the technology that's been talked about for the past 2 days is very disruptive. It's new. I've been trying to explain it to people who have nothing to do with this. Maybe it's just my explanation that wasn't good, but it's very difficult to convey this to, average Joe. And then on top of it being disruptive, it should also be very collaborative. This idea of health for the future, it's going to be collaborative. Hence my question, how are we going to make sure that people are going to say yes to what you're basically all proposing? I mean, yes, I want to talk about investments, and yes, I want to talk about finance, and yes, I want to talk about all the things that you do so beautifully. But I also want to talk about people, and, a lot of people out there have these crazy stories about big pharma, about bits and bytes, about the black box, if they start wavering and sharing their details and their information, some monster is going to come and bite them in the middle of the night. I think we have to address that too, or not. So that's kind of the idea why we are now putting together a Netflix documentary, all of us, to set the record straight. So how are we telling people that technology is really a force for good? That's my question. How are we going to convince people that technology is really a force for good? That would be our next step. So we talked about health. So indirectly, we talked about dis-ease. Now we're talking about technology. Now we're saying, without being too Disney-esque about it, too kumbaya about it, we're introducing this notion of technology as a supporting power. Anyone?
I can start because it builds on my first answer. And that is when you come to the point of ill health. That's when you are completely dependent on technology. For the diagnosis, to understand, and this is where data comes in. And when you are at that point and you're not feeling well, at least in my case, I'm happy to share any data because, I really would like to know what's wrong with me. I want to know if there are other people who are suffering from the same thing, what are their experiences, and in particular, I would like to make sure that I get well as quickly as possible. And for all that, we are dependent on technology. So for me, that is it's a no-brainer. And then when it comes to the question of sharing data, that is something that is an individual choice that all of us can decide. Do I want to share my data for the public good, or do I want to keep that for myself? So for me, this is really, it's really an individual, and I think that would be interesting to hear from the audience, how people feel about that, about sharing their information, can be in an anonymous way, or in a semi-anonymous way, or it depends a little bit what type of data it is, if that can help other people to not go through what I have gone through when I come to a point of illness. So I kick off like that.
Please.
I think that in the trust of citizens and patients in technology, there was a big shift with the pandemic. Even if talking about simple technology, it was the moment where telemedicine made a big jump. And suddenly people, even you were talking about your mother, talking about my father, my mother, suddenly realized that this was something good for them. So simple things as that. Also the fact that the vaccine was discovered so quickly, impossible without technology. So these are things that I think citizens can see already. So they saw it was a big push of digitization in the health sector, the pandemic that was visible to citizens. But I think there is something else that we need to do to make sure that they embrace technology, which is to build trust. And for that, we need a good regulatory framework that protects the citizens' data, the privacy, cybersecurity as well, that they feel that nothing is going to be hacked and all their data is lost, so it's very good. And another thing that is very important is that citizens and patients are part of the design of the solutions we are proposing. That there is a co-design together with all actors involved. This is not only about industry, it's not all about the health systems. The patients need to be part of the solution when it is designed.
Yeah, and there's an interesting paradox in that as well, because you're giving something about yourself in order to get something that's much more personalized back. So, but you wanted to say something, Jenny. Sorry.
Oh, but really building on that, and you elaborated so well, I think that the learnings that we have from COVID is really the power of partnerships, and where really the public sector could join forces with the pharma industry in the development. And it felt like it happened overnight because a new vaccine was developed in 10 months, but it didn't happen overnight. It was built on the foundations of layers of decades of research. And I think that is, and I think that people in general trust a lot in the investments in research. That is something that we need. And from the pharma industry, we are totally reliant on the trust in people wanting to take part in medical research. And therefore, we totally rely on the regulation and the regulatory part so that it's safe. Because the pharma industry cannot only work with anonymous data. That's the tricky part. You need secondary use of data. You need pseudonymous data in order to really track the outcomes. And that's another thing, sort of listening to the presentations here today, I've been very optimistic, actually, because I really like the mindset in this room and in this dialogue that there is a need for also the industrial actors in the partnership. And I think that that's really a way of moving forward. So I would definitely like to focus more on how do we build on those layers.
I'm wondering if your average Joe understands a regulatory framework. Maybe that needs to be specified and amplified on just a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe not. Yes? Or are there? We've made about 12 minutes of documentary by this point. So there's a break coming up, so you can think about it. But maybe it needs to be clarified a little bit. Yeah.
Well, for me, there are different elements, but I think that the angle in this, and the word has been said, is trust. So how do you create trust with citizens, with potential patients? And you do not only convince people just by giving them objective facts. They need to be there, and we need to have the regulatory framework, but we also need to think upon who is the best person or the best stakeholder to basically talk to citizens and to potential patients. So what is the role of the healthcare professionals in terms of using the health data? We have so many new effective treatments like cell therapy, gene therapy, proteomics, etc. And it all works, but for some people it's still far away from them. So how can we work on gaining that trust? And one important stakeholder in this is the patient as well. Patient stories. Let patient tell the stories. What is the added value of a new medicine for someone? What is the impact on society? And we do that too less, and it's normal because we always communicate on the objective facts, but it's how to get to the hearts of the people. That's what we need to do.
For me, it happened when I started delving into nutrition, funnily enough. So please.
Well, allow me just a little bit of rewinding, because I think that yesterday morning you were, here, animating a very good debate at the very beginning. In this debate, I think it was very clear to see the patient and the citizen. The mindset is different. What I understood from one of those presentations of the morning yesterday is that, when you're a patient, you're much willing to share data. I hope it's correct what I understood. When you are so-called a citizen, you ask about question about privacy. So that's a little bit the approach to technology. Depends if we saw on the rare disease people that are so much willing to share because they want to find the solution, but at the same time, all these technologies do show a lot of, I would say, possibilities in future. I think that the difficulty is there to grasp what is the future, what can be the benefit for me. Because at the end, I was reading the other day, the way we think, the way we act is that we accept through benefiting. This has made me thinking, accepting through benefiting. So I don't accept if I don't see any benefit.
Yes, well, I would say that building on what my colleagues here said, I think that definitively it's needed, I would say, an additional effort on communication of the results, of the benefits, and thinking on not what the technology do, but for what do per se, but what is the final result, no? While when we integrate the different technologies or the different approaches, we are able to reach a better solution. I think that it is something that we should also work on.
Yeah, it's one of the tricks in foresight, imagining you're already there 20 years from now, 50 years from now, and then looking back at present time and figuring out what it is you need. So again, my Netflix question becomes, what do you need? What do we need to move forward to get to that golden future 20 years from now, 50 years from now?
As I finish, I start now. I would say from the policy side, I think that we should work more on a policy integration. No, that this is somehow something that we are doing now in the case of my country with this national strategic project, where we do not only have the Ministry of Science and Innovation, but we have the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry for Digital Transformation, the different regions, the 17 regions. We are somehow a sort of semi-federal country. We have the professionals, we have the industry associations there, sit in the same table and looking for a joint agenda. I'm sure that each of us, we have different, I'm sorry, I'm economist, different optimal endpoints, but we have to find the better suboptimal for all of us. I think this is something that it is very important. We are doing it. I have to say it's not easy, because at the end, each of us have our legitimate interest, and but also it's something that we have to, I think we are working well on this, but I think that we need to improve. Thank you.
You would like to add something?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. It is the working together. And if we compare where we are today to where we were in our first conference, where this was very much research, very science-driven, it still is. But the difference today is that we are much, much further on towards the implementation into the healthcare. And what we see is also, now you have 3 Director Generals from the Commission here. We have research, we have Connect, and we have DG Santé. We work very closely together towards common objective. And we very much want to see member states doing the same. And I was so happy that you were the first one to speak on this, because we don't see that in all countries. We need to see ministries coming together and working together and create a common understanding towards we have European strategy and national strategies, and also maybe going down to regional strategies, because implementation of healthcare is often at regional level. It's really, really important that we develop, jointly those strategies. And then what we are doing, and this we have already started, and I think you have seen some presentations during this conference, where we have pilots, where we can demonstrate, what works. We have use cases. We have, for example, the cancer mission, the Beating Cancer Plan at EU level, where we work very closely together, and we see that this also starts to happen at member states level, to come together to national plans and to building sort of more solid strategies. What we often are lacking is actually the finance ministries. And that is really important, because there is a huge economic value in improving healthcare, coming to more rapid diagnosis, rapid treatment, because you're going to save a lot of cost for society, because being ill is expensive. So, and we also talked about prevention. That is another area we need to invest much more on, because as we have the aging population, yes, we need to make sure that we stay healthy, so that those who really get ill, really, we can afford to have treatments for those. But we need to work together, and collaboration is really the key here. We need to come together at all levels, different stakeholders that has been talked about, but also at policy level.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, I fully agree with Irene, and also with what has been said before. A holistic approach is essential. I think that it's already for a while that health is no longer only an issue of health ministries. If we talk about member states or about DG Sante alone, or it is, and pandemic again was a good example of how if you don't have a healthy society, you don't have a healthy economy. I mean, the world stops. Nothing works if society is not healthy. So it is the precondition of everything else. And I think, unfortunately, this is forgotten if you are not in a pandemic. So I fully agree with Irene that you need everybody in the table. I think that this is, I fully agree with the approach of DG Sante, of the One Health. So it's no longer only about health, it's also about the environment, about animal health. All this is linked. And what you need to really trigger everything, again, I'm going to explain what regulatory framework means, because we are in Netflix.
The audience is dropping.
Yeah,
No.
Indeed. I think that you need investment. So that's for sure. Things will not happen just like that. And you need a regulatory framework, which is the rules of the game, so that investment is attractive, so that investment can flourish, and so that investment is there for the right purpose. And so you need the two. And in investment, you need really, and this is good that we are all here, because you need from research to deployment of technologies to then uptake in the health sector. And here is nice, because you have at EU level, the Horizon Europe program, the Digital Europe program for deployment of technologies, and the EU for Health program for the uptake on health. So, and the three DGs are working together and we have, of course, nice examples like the EU Cancer Imaging Initiative, where the project starts being research project that then become an infrastructure funded by the Digital Europe program, and then you have examples of uptake in the EU for Health. So to see all this evolution, I think it's very important. And then the rules of the game. The rules of the game is the regulatory framework, is how can I be sure, we were talking about citizens, that my data will be used for the right purpose, by whom, when. So all this is very important, and we have been working again in the European Union to have, whether it's the Data Governance Act, the Data Act, the AI Act, so artificial intelligence, so that there is transparency in the process, what's behind the algorithm, cybersecurity also to provide certainty. All these frameworks are very important, and then, of course, in terms of policy, biotechnology in the future, so that this happen in a way that builds trust.
I would like to ask, Tineke, you're up next, but I just want you to prepare you and maybe you as well, Raquel. To what degree do presidencies play a role in fine-tuning, yes, in fine-tuning or optimizing these collaborations? Maybe something, if you don't mind, maybe I might stop by and ask you about how the Spanish presidency improved collaborations. Maybe. Tineke first.
Yeah, for me as well, collaboration is key, and I think during the Belgian presidency, the aspect health, which is this conference, but also the aspect of competitiveness has played a key role for the biotech and the biopharma sector as well. Now, to respond to the question, how do you see personalized and preventative medicine in 10 years? If we want to have it in 10 years, we need to have policies supporting innovation and supporting IP, because what we also ultimately want is that the patients in Belgium and in Europe can have access to all of these new technologies. And in that sense, when we talk about regulatory framework, we need to make sure it is smart and it is competitive versus other regions. What we see in terms of ATMPs is that China and the States are much more ahead and much faster in terms of clinical trials. Whereas a lot of knowledge is here in our country, in Europe. So we should make sure that we do not lose competitive positions. So that's why we always plead for smart legislations, for collaboration, indeed, between industry, between the public sector, public-private partnerships. But let's make sure we do not lose our competitive position.
May I ask you the question about the Swedish presidency, how you look back on it, and what were the results of that presidency? And I'm coming to you afterwards about the Spanish presidency, if I may.
Well, the Swedish presidency put really competitiveness as a top priority. I thought that was very good. It's very good that we sort of get the competitiveness of Europe back, especially within the health sector, because that also builds ground for a healthier population. And I think that we need to see sort of what you have been discussed here. I think is so important of the within government cross-ministry organization. And I know it's hard. I've headed the Office for Life Sciences for many years, and it's especially that type of organization. It's a joint venture between the Ministry of Social Affairs, Ministry of Energy and Business, and Ministry of Research and Education. So really driving the agenda towards the Ministry of Finance to sort of have the budgetary inflection points on that. During the Swedish presidency, I think that two of the major conferences within this topical area was one on deep tech and one on the area of precision medicine. And the discussion there was a lot on preventative precision. And really, so what are the ethical dilemmas that we are putting towards now, with many of the things that have come forth now, also here in the Mentimeter, with the costly, with the sort of uneven distribution, with all the challenges that we have. That was one of the dilemmas. The other one was the sustainability of healthcare, sustainability when it comes to our climate, but also sustainability when it comes to both the socio and the economical factors of healthcare. That was very much on the agenda then. And then, of course, there are great opportunities now for Europe, because we are really having sort of, in many ways, the leadership within personalized medicine, because we can work in these type of partnerships. Now, perhaps we need to converge that a bit so we can scale, because we can't really build new efforts if we cannot scale. So I think looking on the Swedish presidency and having seen that both from the Spanish really put forth also this agenda, and then the Belgian presidency, I think that has been really, really good. But do presidencies make a difference? Yes, they do, because they show that we own sort of the European project together. But what does it do in terms of how do we follow up? I think that we need to go back more to that.
Would you feel like commenting on that?
Absolutely, and I wanted to say exactly the same. It was very important to have the opportunity to share strategy, and we worked together with the Swedish presidency, but not during the Spanish presidency, but many, many months before. So we had the opportunity to share priorities and to work together, and also to engage with other ministries. For example, in Spain, during the conference in Valencia, we worked very closely with the Ministry of Health, and it was a very opportunity to identify share needs and also opportunities. For example, we work on the role of research infrastructures and the opportunity to use them together. And now, of course, it's a very good opportunity and a very good example to keep working together with the Belgian presidency.
Which we will do gladly. Let's take a look at the words that pop up on our Mentimeter. So the question was, how do you see personalized and preventative medicine in 10 years? Are there any words? Yes. Are you able to see? I think so, yes. Okay. Is there anything that strikes you that you find interesting that you would like to comment on?
Yes, for me it's not, it's not, from my personal point of view, very well represented, but I can read there healthy aging, and I think that certainly personalized medicine is something that will have a lot to do with this. Certainly it has to do with prevention, certainly it has to do with the care, okay, but and somehow prevention and healthy aging are part of the same pack. Thank you.
Yes, please. Yes, thank you.
Yes, I'm happy to see pharmacogenomics there, because we know that we already have a wealth of medicines, already available, and we know that there are adverse reactions. Not everybody is responding to everything, and I think we can do a lot more in that field. We have started, but we can do a lot more on pharmacogenomics to also improve the medicines that we have here in terms of dosage and making sure that the right medicine comes to the right patient, and by that we can save a lot of suffering and a lot of costs again. So,
and what needs to happen in that field specifically to improve matters? Well,
for that we need a lot more research. We need to continue to invest in research, and then what we are working very closely with our colleagues in the European Medicines Agency to make sure that any results in that area also becomes available, and then further can be developed into guidelines in terms of dosage. Of course, we also have our partnership with industry, where we also, of course, are working a lot on personalized medicine. And I mean, in the development of new medicines, this is sort of standards, but we have a lot of medicines which already have been there for a very long time, where we need to continue to invest also from the public side.
Yes. Thank you.
I've tried to look at all those, let's say, phrases or wording, and maybe one aspect that comes up to my mind now, because also of this meeting today, is about convergence. I think this is a call for convergence. What do you think? I mean, they are calling for convergence, and convergence basically applies, as you know, to create the right conditions, but also applies to break silos. You have heard that, Irene and Lorena saying that we collaborate and we break silos. But I think we need to break silos to get there. We need to break silos amongst disciplines. We need to make sure that we have this freedom of circulating information, that researchers can feel free. And on this, I like to, because of competitiveness as well, I like just to mention that I would say a few weeks ago, you might have read or not, in case it would be good to read it, a former Italian Prime Minister, Letta, has issued a very nice report on the request of the European Council last year on competitiveness, about the internal market. And what do we find in that? I mean, many things, of course, but I've been attracted and thinking to come here today by this fifth freedom. Fifth freedom, adding to the internal market the fifth freedom. So, to make sure that we circulate information, we circulate data, we circulate also as researchers, we apply, so we break down the barriers. And I like to quote, because he says, to revitalize Europe leadership in health, the European Union must set bold new goals that mobilize political will, scientific innovation, and strategic investment. I think we need to take stock of that to reach all those goals.
I think your neighbor would like to add something to that? No? No. What I'm seeing as well, again, from a perspective of a Netflix viewer, is the word expensive. Who said expensive? Coming to you. What is your concern? What do you think we won't be able to pay for?
Hi, I'm Francesco from the region South Tyrol, and I was wondering in those days, yesterday also, all was expensive, like for the genome, and I was thinking, is this for all the citizens, or will be this for the rich people? This was just my concern. Healthcare and water, yeah, exactly.
I think that's a very valid question. Who do you like to... You're just addressing the entire panel? The entire panel, please. So, who's going to pay for all of this, basically, right? Okay, yes. So, who is going to pay for this? You are?
Yes. So I'm the pharma industry and the expensive. I think that's an extremely relevant question, and my hope, but it is that it's really the personalized and precision medicine that is really key to enable the expensive or at least the new and costly treatments, so that they can be used in the sort of in the absolute right decision moment, and often very early on. Because it's really the early detection that is the key to that we will have the need for very good treatments. But I think that's actually a key question for the welfare union of Europe, and especially welfare states as Sweden, where I mean it's really a timing where we will have to look at. How do we distribute care? What is really the ethical dilemmas here? Because I think it is a true challenge, and this is also where industry needs to be part of the partnership and also look at the new business models and the new treatment models, because otherwise we will have sort of a breaking up society. I think that's a big challenge, and another part that we haven't mentioned that's on the table, but it's the largest one. It's the palliative care, and that's when we are out of options. And how do we get the personalized? Absolutely no expert on this, but I think it's interesting in this room that it comes up, because we seldom talk about that, especially not from the side where you come with the treatments or you want to come with the treatments. But I think that is the extremely important part.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to reply to the question by showing to another word, so like that, which is prevention. So on the one hand, to say that I think it's now well proven that prevention is much more cost-effective than treatment, that's a way to make things more accessible. If you work well on prevention, then things will not be that expensive afterwards. Also that I think that when we will reach really real personalized medicine, that will be also very cost effective, because you can be saving a lot of money instead of, applying generalized treatments and trying here and there. You go straight to what's the solution, and you can save a lot of money to the health systems that can then dedicate it to other things. But then I think in technology, because I've been in technology now a few years, many, and it always starts expensive, and then it becomes cheaper. I mean, just remember the first smartphones. It was almost impossible, and then it becomes accessible. So I think there is a need also of research to make things more accessible, and I think that's what we are doing as well. This is also why investment is important, because at the end of the day, and this is why we are doing things like the e-health data space and all that, to make sure that the solutions that we are working on are accessible to everybody. With the e-health data space, then you are going to have all the genomes projects or EU Cancer Initiative to make accessible this data for all researchers that can. And this is a way to make things cheaper, so that you are somehow giving access to everybody to do research in these technologies and applications and deployment. So.
I believe Jenni wants to add something to that.
Yeah, so I fully agree with Lorena there, and prediction prevention is one key in this jigsaw. The other one is to look at the healthcare today and the trial and error that we have had historically. And this is the vision of personalized medicine, is to very rapidly identify what is not right and what is the right treatment for that individual. And by that we will have savings, because the illness as such is costing society a lot of money from all aspects. And it's really kind of to increase the speed and the rapidity. And this is where technology is the key, of course, to do that. And by that, we should be able to save money that we then can, use for those who really need it. So it's a big jigsaw where all the pieces need to be worked on at the same time. And I'm coming back to that. We really need to have this demonstration, these pilots in healthcare that also look at the economic aspects, because by that we will see how we can optimize the healthcare to make sure that we have a much more effective and efficient system, and to make sure that we do spend the money in the right way. So this is really the vision you talked about, where would we be in 10, 20 years, etc. I mean, that is where we want to be, is really to have that data. And that's why we need to have all these different pilots in different disease areas, in different regions, different type of models, because all countries are different, all regions are different. But by having a set of different models, one can pick and choose and see, what suits which region. We have cities which are very well populated, we have very remote regions, and it's not like one size fits all. It's a jigsaw that needs to be put together, but we need to do the experiments and to demonstrate, and in particular put in also the health economics into this.
Tineke.
Yeah, I fully agree with what you said, because it's a pity that sometimes the perception is only about the cost. It's about the cost effectiveness. It's about the shift we need to make towards value-based healthcare. It's about making bold decisions, as was said as well, on where do we invest, and maybe we should not invest in other elements. It's about reform in healthcare systems as well, to make sure that you have the budget available for those treatments that are for maybe a number of people. I don't believe that everybody in its life will need personalized medicine. So I would like to go to a situation where it's kind of seen as an and, where we do invest more in prevention, diagnostics, where we make sure that the budget is used for what it needs to be used for, rather than just it's only about costly treatments. It's about cost effectiveness.
Moving from cost to technology to something else that catches my attention, the standard of care. Do we see it improve? Who said standard of care? All of a sudden, nobody said standard of care. I wonder, will all of this benefit the standard of care?
My hopeful interpretation of that wording here was that precision and personalized medicine is then standard of care. 10 years from now, it's standard of care. It's what we often think is standard of care now is then actually standard of care, that we have really early diagnostics, that we have all the genomics, that's available for all. And I think that 10 years from now is both long and short term. So in order to have that all through Europe, I mean, quite a lot needs to happen now in building the infrastructure, in setting that up, in really following up the work, what is going on, what has happened over there last year. So that was my interpretation. Standard of care is always where you are right now. So 10 years from now, if we're not at personalized medicine, where are we then?
Thank you. So let's launch our second and last question. The question is, what are you going to take home with you after 2 days of thinking and brainstorming and venturing into the future together? Main takeaways. What are your main takeaways? Thank you. Let's dive into the audience again. Hello. You could feel it that I was coming your direction. What are your main takeaways?
Oh, you've caught me by surprise. I wasn't planning to...
I do that.
Yeah. I can see you have that cheeky side to you.
It's not cheekiness. It's passion.
Oh, passion. Okay, that's great. I think for me, it's been... Because I'm not an expert in genomic medicine, I've really enjoyed learning a lot from the presentations. And I think what I will say is that I've come away with an even stronger conviction than I had before, that our efforts around health data must embrace the specialist kinds of data that these innovations need. And my concern is that quite a lot of the investments taking place at a European scale in interoperability, in data spaces even, are addressing some of the common low-hanging fruit types of data like medication lists and allergy lists and so on. And they're not going to cut it for the people in this room. And what I'm not sure about is how do we take the needs for the innovation at large population scales, not just a few volunteers, but large population scales of very specialized data that is needed from those people, and how do we build that into the very nascent pan-European data superhighways that are being created that are not really fit for this purpose, even in their dreams just yet. So I think for me, it's been a very powerful wake-up. Deepak, don't be complacent that you're on a journey that's going somewhere. You're making tiny steps. These people need major leaps. And I'm not quite sure how to help you yet, but that's my homework.
Well, thank you very much. As I look to my right, I see someone who is about to fly home to Rome. What are you going to tell your friends in Rome about, or your colleagues in Rome, about the last 2 days?
Thank you. Well, I will reassure them that our priorities, because I coordinate a project about personalized prevention, are the same of all the major people presenting in this room. That luckily we don't talk only about health economic evaluation, but we look more in a value-based healthcare system, and that we talk also a lot about investing in health across all the policies. It's not about health investments. We're just going to publish the next week a commentary that reports that investment in prevention are sufficient, but they're not necessary. They do not correlate directly with the reduced burden of non-communicable disease, but still with the reducing burden of communicable disease, because you need to also invest in other sectors. So it has to be a priority really across all the governments, across all the ministries.
By the way, I wasn't being cheeky, I was being bold.
Oh, bold.
Bold. Bold is the new green. Bold is the new cheeking, whatever. Hello, sir, who are you?
Hi everyone, Francesco Florindi from Thermo Fisher Scientific, so industry. I'm also the chair of the MedTech Europe Cancer Sector Group, so I'm not representing one company only, but hopefully all the MedTech companies that care about fighting cancer. And I was, no, yeah, but I was just telling Stefania, I was really about to jump on my seat before because we are circling around one big problem that's there is a big disconnect between those who pay for the costly personalized medicines and personalized prevention and those who benefit from it. And as industry, of course, we see this very, very clearly, right? There are commercial interests. I'm not going to hide behind it. But that's the big problem. Take pharmacogenomics. You've heard Jesse, absolutely low-hanging fruit. For me, we're talking about standard of care. This should be available right now. We're wasting so many quality of qualities and years of lives. The evidence is there. There is not a clear pathway to make these tests available right now. It's very, very complex. And I'm telling you, that's my job. We focus on it every day, and it's extremely complex. Personalized prevention. Again, there's plenty of evidence. In one go, we can do pharmacogenomics, polygenic risk scores, blood typing, whatever it's needed. But the path to bring these innovations that are so disruptive, the healthcare systems, they're not ready. And the disconnect between the finance ministers, those who pay, and those who benefit is so broad for these new innovative treatments that it's extremely complicated to bring them to market. So my message is a message of practicality. We're here to talk with the decision makers, with the Commission. That's my job on a daily basis. Because it's beyond the commercial interest. We can bring solutions, but the pathways are not there. So it's time that again I'm looking at Irene because I was there at the 2016 personalized medicine event on another side, working for research infrastructures, and it's so great how this has developed. My wish for the next personalized medicine event is that we bring here the ministers of finance and we bring in the social sciences, because the evidence is there, the technology works. We are ready to give all sorts of new innovations to the healthcare system, but we need that paradigm shift because we reach the point where we have so much stuff that's so good that it just cannot enter the healthcare system in an efficient way.
Well, thank you very much for that. Does anyone want to comment on that? Lorena, I'm noticing that you're jotting things down, that you're writing things down. Would you like to think out loud, or would you like to comment on that? You made it very clear, thumbs up, yes to ministers, yes to more parties involved in this conversation.
No, but I can only agree. I think it was very well spoken. We need to identify those low-hanging fruits, and that's what I mean also where we have pilots, we have a lot of things going on. It is about how do we roll it out, and this is, again, I'm coming back to these pilots, because we need to demonstrate the value. Finance ministers are not easy to flirt with, and I think Jenni can confirm to that one. It's not so easy to flirt with them and to make sure we need to do this shift in the system because there may need an upfront investment in certain technologies, in infrastructures, etc. But then the value and the payback of that, the cost benefit, may be very much in favor. But this is, this is work, and that's why we need to work together. That's why we need to have these strategies that involves all the actors, all the stakeholders, and also all the different type of ministries. This is a really all-encompassing endeavor, and everybody is needed to talk the talk and walk the talk to move this forward. And coming back to this, I'm very happy to see how much things has moved on from our very first conference, and it feels also a little bit sort of a credit. Yes, we were right to kind of really start pushing this forward, but we need to push even more, I think, in the future. So thank you for raising those points.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Would you like to comment?
No, for me it's difficult. I'm going back to the question of takeaways, and then I will jump into that. I was not there the whole conference, so I cannot really say what are the takeaways. I can guess by the words, but what was discussed today, I'm by the type of questions we are getting from the audience. By the way, I'm taking a lot of notes now for my new job, so I'm really.
What the party's all about later, is that for your new job? The party, the party to which we're all invited, that's the party for, okay, fine.
And so, I mean, as takeaway, what I'm seeing is that it's no longer about somehow discovering the potential of genomics to revolutionize healthcare. This is already taken for granted. So I'm seeing that this is no longer a debate. This is there. Good to know. We are doing it. Same for biotechnology, artificial intelligence, all that, and also for the values part, for the need to have a framework that we are going to call rules of the game for Netflix. Also, all this is taken for granted. What I see a lot is this need and it's a takeaway for me, of having a more holistic approach, of having really everybody around the table and not the usual suspects. And about, and this is not only for health, about really breaking or bridging the gap between, okay, this is there, how do we reach to the patient, how do we reach to the citizen, and how do we do it in an affordable way? How to jump from one to the other. I believe we are in the right path. I think a lot is being done there. We were in a commission where we were very much in research, and then what happens with this research? Well, maybe it was bought by a third country and they were doing good things with it, to a commission that is much more into the deployment, into the take-up. And this is why I was talking about Digital Europe program, about the European Health Data Space, about the EU for Health, which is more trying to bring it closer to the use cases and then the pilot. So I think that we're at least making an effort in that direction. I take note that more needs to be done. I'll bring it to the new DG. But I think that at least we are really working on that, and the concrete use cases, and when you see things like the Virtual Human Twins initiative, where really we are going to real use cases, it's something that at least gives me some hope.
Yes.
Very briefly, just replying a little bit to this question, because yesterday, again, if I understood correctly, one of the speakers said, listen, we have developed tremendous technology, but at the end, we realized that it was not really necessary, or that there was not really a breakthrough. So we also need to take that into consideration, that sometimes we need to assess that technology. This is the message I'm taking back home. And it's not always pursuing the objective. So the message was, we need to really assess, keep assessing through the time we go and we develop a technology, what will be the future? Because I've also been experiencing some kind of, let's say, disruptive and interesting talks where a scientist told me, well, we have a very good MRI here available that maybe in 1 or 2 years, but you know what? The doctors in the hospitals are telling me that this is far too much for them. And they are basically very happy with what they have now. So let's think also about this. It might be that, there is a decalage between technologies and the needs, but nevertheless, I fully agree, we need to look at investments, and when you speak about investments, don't forget about returns, whether for the society or for the industry, but we need to think about returns.
Does anyone want to comment on that? So the reason I use this image, of course it's an image of making a Netflix documentary together, is because I think that at some point we're going to have to use a language that's comprehensive for many people. I mean, if we want to involve more and more and more people, we need to make sure that everyone is on par and everyone is very clear about where we're heading with. So our time together is slowly coming to an end, and going back to our Netflix thing, let's end maybe with a hopeful message for the viewers, or maybe Let's share what your ambitions are for the next few years, or what your priorities are, and how you intend on going there, or on getting there. Shall we do that? Yes, let's do that. So as a final message to our Netflix viewers, what is your vision for the future? How are you getting there? And how can we help?
Well, from my point of view, I think it's very important to keep the momentum, okay? To do not forget from where we come, okay? And in the very near future, we are assisting in the next months to critical periods in order to be defined the different policies. And again, I insist the importance on having a holistic vision on these policies. We see that there are many. We have also a poly-risk society or whatever, and we have to be very smart in order to be able to develop what we want to have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo. Antonio, what would your final message be to the viewing population?
Well, just very quickly, and Lorena mentioned, I would like to underline the One Health. One Health. And this convergence applies also to that, antimicrobial resistance. It's a very big deal. Nutrition, it's really a big issue. And the converging, the omics, they apply to nutrition as well. That's my message.
Thank you very much. Tineke, what would your message be?
Yeah, I think we should always start with why. So when we're in the documentary, we should explain why personalized medicine is so important. And in terms of common language, you could say to people kind of, you know what, imagine that you want a cookie that is specifically for you. What are the ingredients that you want? And when you eat the cookie, it's to make you better. That is exactly what we're doing with personalized medicine. Now, how to make that happen from an industry perspective is, first of all, is to make sure that we have an investment climate where innovation can continue to thrive. And we do that by collaboration, pilot projects, and all of the supportive mechanisms that we have from Europe as well. Secondly, is to make sure that we can keep the knowledge and the excellence that we have in Europe as well in terms of science, but also how to translate that in terms of an industrial policy as well. So that should be an action point as well. And last but not least, with a positive message, as it's put on the screen, the future is promising and the future is now, and we have all the ingredients in-house in Europe to make that happen.
Thank you.
This is an area where we really came from science and technology push. And I'm hoping that we are moving over to societal pull to get this out.
That is beautiful. I'm stealing that.
Very good. Sort of same thing, different words, but the implementation of innovation. What I take back is a lot of the power of the European partnerships, the permits, the genomics, the IHI. We've been working through those. They work. They can scale. We can do even more.
And the final word is for you.
No, I was planning to say something very futuristic and all that, but in fact I'm not, because I think, now because I'm realizing that we all have the future already in our brains. What we need now is to bring it to reality. And what I would plead, and would be my final words, is indeed, as was mentioned, the ingredients are now all there. We are getting the data, let's say. We have the tools to get it, to manage it. We have the tools to play with it. We have the AI, So what we really need now is that all the work that has been put a lot during these last 5 years is to implement, to bring it to reality. Because that's what's going to bring us to personalized medicines, to what really we are all dreaming of having. Just let's implement what we have. Of course, we will continue researching and we will continue dreaming, but only to bring to practice what we have now is a big challenge. And if we manage, and we will manage, will be a big success.
Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you for entertaining this crazy thought of mine, but you did it so beautifully.